Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and we are back in our studio with one addition, which is this ridiculous armcast. So we had an interesting Edinburgh this year, to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all going very well. We had
to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was going well, and we were having a great start. Really, we were doing, as we said before, we were doing 2 shows. So we were doing Casting the Runes at 11:35. Then there was a 20-minute turnaround, and then we were doing Gulliver's Travels at 1 o'clock, and that was going really well.
Yeah, we'd got into a good swing of it actually. We'd got really we got good at the turnaround. Even though the show after Gulliver was also had quite a lot of set as well, so there was a very tight turnaround with that. But we'd even got that smooth. Everything was running. We were quite enjoying doing both shows back to back.
Well, it was feeling good, wasn't it? It was. I mean, I think we said before that was the right way around to do it, because
100%.
Going from Casting the Runes into Gulliver's Travels, following the kind of the height of the tension at the end of Casting the Runes with a shipwreck at the beginning of Gulliver felt right, and it was fun to do them back to back like that. And it wasn't feeling super exhausting, or
it wasn't feeling that different from normally just doing one show. I think because we were doing them back to back, you have that sort of ramp up of adrenaline before you start the first show, but then that just sort of carries you through into the end of the second one. So it's almost a bit like doing a 2-act play that's quite intense. But it was fun.
Yeah,
there
were a few
good audiences.
You were getting great audiences.
And it was a little slow to begin with, to be fair, because I think that everybody was struggling a little bit this year. The festival itself was just definitely a little quieter, so it took us a little while. It took us a little bit longer, I thought, to get going. Although, having said that, we had 2 shows to sell, so that's a difficult thing to work out.
It's always hard to compare.
But we were
variables.
doing very well. We certainly couldn't complain at all about any of that.
We had some really lovely reviews for the shows. We had people come in and see it and give us some lovely feedback and stuff. So that was great. And although the weather was very hot at the beginning of the festival, so that was a little bit of a challenge, because it also meant that they were having a couple of problems with the air conditioning units.
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, none of the places are built for that kind of weather, particularly in Edinburgh. I don't think I've known it to be quite that warm, actually. It was strange. It was nice in one way. We were outside in a t-shirt, but in the venues, all the venues throughout the festival seemed to be struggling with the warmth. Yeah,
so by the time we'd finished those 2 shows, I certainly was absolutely
the boys were dripping. And actually, even I was, and I don't normally get particularly sweaty or hot. But apart from that, it was good.
It was going great.
We'd got sort of just over halfway through the festival, and we had a day off, and then we came back from our day off, and it was a very hot day again. The venue was warm again, and we did a really lovely Casting the Runes in the morning. We had a nice show. We were a bit warm, but we had a very nice show. And then we started Gulliver's Travels, and we got almost exactly halfway through the show, and I fell. So I stand on a trunk at one point and I fell. It was just one of those sort of freak things. The trunk kind of got stuck and flipped me off it. And at the time I sort of said, I was a bit shocked, obviously. I didn't really know what had happened, but I knew I'd hurt my wrist. But I was kind of saying, I think let's try and carry on, because I was so aware that there's 140 odd people sat there watching a show.
Yeah.
You want to carry on.
Absolutely. And so unfortunately we had to stop the show there in the middle, and we couldn't continue, and so we had to send everybody out, and then we had to try and do a few. We had to try and do the best we could over the next few days to work out what the plan was after that.
Yes, because it turned out I'd broken my wrist.
Yeah.
That was the long and short of that story. So we had 3 days. Oh well, you wanted to... No, we've got a video, haven't we? Of
That's what I thought.
Moment.
I thought I would pause for a
point.
second and just show a few bits and pieces that we tried to put out to figure out what we were going to do next. Hello there. We've been having an amazing Fringe Festival so far. Thank you so much to everyone who's come along to see either Casting the Runes or Gulliver's Travels. We've had some wonderful shows, and the reactions from the audiences have been absolutely brilliant. It's been really lovely. Thank you if you've seen the show already. Today, unfortunately, we had a little bit of an accident, and Antonia was injured during the second show of the day, which was Gulliver's Travels. I'll update people more as we kind of figure out what we're doing. But for now, at least, unfortunately, it means that tomorrow's shows and the next couple of days, so Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have to cancel all performances. A little update for you. As you may already know, Antonia has broken her wrist. However, we have been into the venue today to have a little practice and a play around with some of the puppets and the set. And we're going to try and get back to doing performances. What we're thinking that we'll do is we're going to alternate the shows because it's just too much to be able to do both shows in one day, especially with the turnaround between them. So we are in the space at Pleasance Courtyard in above. We've come in today, as we did yesterday, to have a little bit of a rehearsal and see what's possible and what we need to change, what we need to adjust in order to accommodate Antonia's lovely accessory that she's got here. And it was not too bad, was it? It was, there's a few little things we need to tweak here and there, but on the whole, it looks like, for Casting the Runes at least, which was the one we've worked on today, things should be...
We'll give it a go tomorrow.
Exactly, we'll give it a go. That's all we can do and see what happens.
Hello everybody, I just wanted to say a huge and massive, huge thank you to everybody who came to see Casting the Runes this morning. It was my first show back after this happened, and honestly you couldn't have been nicer. I was actually pretty emotional at the end, so thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being so kind, and actually now looking forward to the next one.
So yeah, we obviously had to cancel the following few days.
Yes, because I had to go back into hospital on the Friday because it was a bit bent out of shape, so I had to have it put back into the right position, and then we just needed some time to figure out what we were going to do. So as I think you probably saw in one of the videos there, was us figuring stuff out. We realised that we couldn't do 2 shows a day for the final week because that was just going to be too much.
In more ways than one. I mean, physically changing the shows over and the amount of the rush that you
needed 6 hands to do that.
You need everybody to be able to be working together to move stuff to make it practical. And also I just think in terms of like the shock and the recovery for you,
it was quite exhausting.
Exactly.
I was warned when I went to the hospital the second time. The anaesthetist said to me, look, you're going to be tired, and he very much was urging us into, if you're going to go back to it, maybe just think about doing 1 show a day rather than both.
Not only because obviously physically it's exhausting, but also because you're having to make constant adjustments, and you can't do the things that you physically would normally do. So all of the movements that you've learned and practiced, all of the things that you've rehearsed, you're having to remember to kind of to recalculate and do something different throughout the show all the time, and remember all the little changes that we've made. Yeah,
for Casting the Runes, obviously, if you've seen the show, or even just the trailer, the puppet style is normal, so they're hand-operated puppets. Well, I'm used to doing those with my right hand because I am right-handed. So I was fine doing them with my left hand, really, but my arm isn't as strong. So actually, there was some of the extended scenes, I was realising by the time I got to the end of the scene, my arm was like, oh God, it's sort of shaking. So yes, for all sorts of reasons, we did 1, but we did nonetheless, and I'm very proud that we managed to. We alternated then, so we did Casting the Runes followed by Gulliver, alternated.
On alternate days,
And so we did, we still did a week's worth of shows, so we cancelled way less than we might have had to. And we had we had full houses basically for that whole week, which we couldn't believe.
It was so lovely. I think after a shock like that, and feeling like for a moment, obviously we weren't sure what was going to happen and whether we were going to be able to carry on. So the idea that our run would have ended prematurely, especially when it was going well, just to have to just stop like that.
For me, that wasn't going to happen. I'm far too stubborn. I was like, if there's some way of us doing it, we're jolly well doing something. I just couldn't bear the idea that something so kind of irritating, in my view, would have stopped us. So
the fact that then, when we did come back, having cancelled a few shows, that the audiences were there and the numbers were there and people, it was packed. And not only that, but also, obviously we made a little announcement before each performance just to explain that Antonia was going to be wearing a cast and that she'd broken her wrist, so that some things might be a bit more some things might be a bit more challenging. The support and the kind of warmth that we felt from the audiences as well was absolutely lovely, fantastic. And also, I mean, there were so many people that spoke to me afterwards on the way out saying, she was incredible. I never would have known that she was wearing a cast. Please pass on how brilliant she was. If you hadn't told us, yeah. So it was.
Everybody was very, very kind,
very supportive,
and very generous, and I think there was a appreciation for the fact that we hadn't just given up. Not that, by the way, if anybody had decided not to do them, it probably would have been quite sensible. So I certainly wouldn't. If somebody else had made the decision not to carry on, that would be completely fair enough.
Under those circumstances that somebody should carry
absolutely.
on. And ultimately, as difficult as it was, we did have to kind of hand over to you and go, are you sure you're comfortable?
Yeah.
Because really the only person who could make that decision
no, absolutely.
was you. But you did so brilliantly. It was fantastic.
No, we did have a lot of, I mean, it was massive team effort, obviously, because for everyone else they had to make modifications because of this as well. So we all had to kind of but yeah, it was, I feel like because we knew the shows very, very well, if we'd have been doing a new show, we might have had more of a pause about having to change it like that quick, but because we've done both the shows many times, that was definitely helpful. And we were very pleased to have salvaged something of the last week.
And I think I was so glad for you as well, because when it actually happened during the show, I was at the front of the stage, and when I kind of turned around and realised what happened, because I was carried on singing on my own, and realised that those guys had stopped behind me, and I could see when it had happened just how much you didn't want to have to stop the show.
No.
How really, if there was anything you could have done to continue, then you would have done, but obviously it wasn't
possible. We had I don't think we've spoken about this, we had at the very beginning of the run, when we were doing casting the runes, sorry, someone's just struck up a rather noisy garden machinery, so I'm sorry if you can hear that, we had Carswell broke.
Yeah.
So we'd done a little bit of the show, and his first appearance I went to pick him up and his shoulders had collapsed. So we had to pause the show for
And if you haven't
30
seen the show, he's the looming villain, so there's really nothing you can do.
I stood there, I remember, I stood there by the stand kind of thinking, can I hold him in this weird way to bring him on? And I was like, there's literally nothing I can do, I'm going to have to stop the show. We've never had to stop a show before.
No.
So I stopped it, we fixed him with some gaffer tape. I think we were probably the audience probably waiting for maybe a minute and a half. We did it really quickly, and then we carried on. But that felt like, wow, gosh, we had to fix a puppet, and then, so, we really don't ever want to, sadly, I couldn't fix myself with gaffer tape.
Tragically, no.
But
I'm sure you would have done.
Great. I'm sure I would have done if I could have done, yeah, exactly. In fact, I did actually think of it at the time.
Just tape a splint.
Yeah, exactly, just tape something to my arm. Anyway, so, it was an odd festival because of that. But nonetheless, we had a good festival.
Yeah,
and
we
we've
really did.
Got feedback and things that we can show.
Yeah, exactly. So not to finish, I mean, obviously it sort of overshadowed everything else, and it feels like, therefore, that's predominantly what we're talking about in relation to our experience of the festival as a whole. That's not to take away from the fact that the shows went down fantastically. We had such a lovely reaction from all the audiences, and we've got a bunch of feedback and a few examples of both audience reviews and professional reviews that we can show you, just to give a taste of what people were saying about the show.
That was our Fringe, and we are now, luckily, not unlike last year where we were going straight into a tour of 2 shows. We're not doing that this year because we're starting work on the new show, which we will do as a separate series of vlogs talking about the creation of that. But we have got just a few performances of Casting the Runes over Halloween, so they're all up on our website, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
And so if you go have a look, if you're anywhere near any of those venues and you fancy coming along to see it, I should be out of a cast by then, but I think I'm probably still going to have to do left-handed puppetry because there's just a few complications with it. But that'll be fine. Yeah, so do have a look. We'd love to see you there. And we'll be also putting up our spring 2025 tour dates soon, which will be The Picture of Dorian Gray and The Frog and the Princess. So look out for those as well. In the meantime, do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, whatever, subscribe. Is that the other thing? That is the other thing. And we'll see you next time.